Hello, this tutorial will cover basic color correction using Adobe's program Speedgrade. This is a really nice addition to the Adobe kit, and it will help with color correction if you want to do more detailed stuff that you can't do with the 4 basic filters we covered in our basic color correcting within Premiere tutorial. So you've got your timeline, you've got all your clips laid out. Let's move over to Speedgrade. When you're ready to do color correcting, and one thing that's nice about Speedgrade is it's a direct link. It's not required that you be finished with your picture edit. You can start doing color correction while you are still editing. It's very, very nice because what Speedgrade does is it takes all the effects that you build within Speedgrade, creates one lookup table, essentially the same thing as these Lumetri looks, and then it applies that as an effect to your clip within Premiere. So once that is applied to your clip, you can go back and you can change the duration, and that effect will be on all the footage, no matter what edits you do after you do the color correction. So maybe you're waiting for the client to get back to you on some changes that they want to do with the video, and you're thinking, I got some time today, let's start color correction. This won't be the finished locked color correction, but we might as well get into it while the client finishes making up their mind. Anyway, so you've got your timeline. All right. What you want to do is go to File, Direct Link to Adobe Speedgrade. Save changes and open in Speedgrade, yes. Now this will take a minute because it not only has to open Speedgrade, but it also has to find all the footage and create the dynamic links back and forth. And it appears that it is opening Speedgrade on my other monitor, and as soon as it's open, I'll be bringing it onto this monitor. Sorry for the delays. Here we go. This will take a minute. If I was any kind of civilized, I would go in and I would edit these moments out of the tutorial before uploading, but I'm a monster, so I won't do that. All right, so here we are in Speedgrade. I don't want to get too detailed in the interface because it's a bit strange, but when you want to scroll through footage, you grab this thing and you can whip your timeline back and forth. Let's start with this shot. This is the same shot we just did in the previous tutorial, so let's begin with that and see how it goes. Normally you would want to use a bigger monitor than 1920 by 1080, but because we're doing this for a tutorial, I'm using a smaller monitor. First thing you want to do, as always, is go to this little plus is add effect. This is a primary correction, a secondary correction, effects. So we want to add an effect. The first effect we want to add is sharpen. Now this does not work on the same numeric system as Premiere's sharpen effect. What we did for Premiere was a 20. Let's apply that to this and see what happens. That looks horrible. Let's try a 0.2 instead. That still looks horrible. Let's try a 0.02 instead and see how that looks. Okay, finally we're getting into rational territory. Now let's go back to the primary correction. First thing you're going to want to do with Blackmagic footage is boost the contrast. Well, boost the saturation. And you can go harder on the saturation. Let's take this right up to 2. And that's our input saturation. We're also going to be adding some final saturation, which will push it even harder. But let's boost our input saturation so we can see what we are doing as we get into the color wheels. And then we'll push the final saturation a little bit more. So we've boosted our input saturation. Next thing I want to do is bring up the contrast a bit. Looking better already. Now they have a nice tool. This is called the pivot tool, and what it will do is bring the the overall brightness of the image up or down depending on how you slide it. So we can bring the overall brightness down, or we can bring it up a bit. Let's go with 0.5 is the middle, so let's go with 0.4. And let's push that contrast. No more. Let's not do any more with the contrast. Let us add some curves. I love me some curves. Here are your RGB curves, just like in Premiere. You can, let's drop our blacks down, bring our whites up. Now, in Premiere, to check the A/B, we were duplicating the clip and removing the effects. When we're in Speedgrade, we don't have to do that. There's a much easier way. You just hit the 0 key on your numeric keypad, and that will show you what the image looked like out of camera, and you bring it back. All right, let's go into primary. We've got our contrast back. It's looking good. Let's say we wanted to make this a little more golden. We would go into our gamma. Offset are your blacks, gammas are your mid-ranges, and gain is your highlights. So let's go into gamma and drag this over a little bit. You can see it's getting more and more orange. Let's say that's too orange and we want to reset it. No problem. This little button here will reset. Let's say we want to go faster. You can hit the Shift key, and then your slight mouse movements will blast it all over the color wheel. Let's reset that. Let's just give it a bit of orange, just a hint of orange. Okay, good enough for me. Now let's say we want to bring down our blacks a little bit. These are your brightness sliders over here. So we're just going to bring that down a bit. Don't like what we see? We have our reset button here. So your brightness reset button will appear here. If you don't make any adjustments, there's no button because there's nothing to reset. That button only appears once you start making adjustments. All right, let's bring our gain up. Let's bring those whites back. No, that looks terrible. Let's reset it. I'm sorry, I misspoke a little bit. Offset will affect your whole image, not just your blacks. If you want to affect your blacks specifically, go into shadows, and you've got your 3 sliders there. Midtones will do your mids, highlights will do your highs, obviously. All right, that's not looking too bad. That's what we got out of camera. That's what we're looking at now. Let's push the curves a little bit more if we can. All right, looking okay. Not bad at all. Now let's say we really like this color correction. It's not bad or good. Let's just say we love it and we want to do more of it. What you can do is click on this, and it will save that as a look. We go to the next clip, and if you want to see what that look would look like without applying it, just roll your mouse over that. And then when you roll off, it will remove that effect. Hey, I love it. Let's apply it. Click once and you will get that in a nice folder. If you want to turn off all those effects at one blow, you can. Turn them all back on. All right, let's go to this shot. Let's apply that lookup table right away. Oh my God, that looks horrible. First thing we need to do is bring down those oranges. We are seriously blowing out the oranges. Now what I'd like to do is a selective correction. Well, we're looking really red. Let's bring down the reds a little bit. Let's not do it there. Let's reset that. And let's do a secondary correction. Secondary correction means that you're specifically going for one specific area of the color spectrum. Like you can specifically choose if you want it to be orange or green or just the blues that you're affecting, or just the highlights or just the lowlights. So let's go into here and pick the yellows or the oranges. Sorry, the reds. I'm dang near colorblind. Now, this is affecting a very, very specific area of the red spectrum. You'll see you have red down here to green to blue and back to red. So, if we bring down the gains of the reds, you're noticing that there's a lot of noise being built right there. So what we want to do is expand. We have two sliders here. This will adjust, that will adjust the reach of the color that you're affecting, and this lower one will affect the roll-off. So we want to extend the roll-off because that will help reduce the noise effects we're getting there. And I'd like to move this over more towards the orange. All right, so now we've selected orange with a little bit of with a little bit more roll-off than before. What I'd like to do is reduce the saturation. So let's bring that down, and you can see we are desaturating the oranges, but the blues are being retained. So it's having a bit of an effect on the blue, but we retain the blues even without the oranges. Let's not do it that much. Let's just do it so it's not so blazingly orange. All right, looking not so good, but I just wanted to introduce the tools. And let's do one more. Let's do another outside scene and see what we can do with that. Do we have a different one? Let's do this one. All right, first thing we're going to do is apply the look. And again, straight out of camera, this is feeling a little bit warm. So you just take this and give it some blue. And let's go up to our curves and bring the highlights down. Bring the reds down a little bit to cool our image even more. All right, and let's get some more black going on. If we bring the blacks up too much, we don't get any good separation between the foreground twig and the background trees, but we want something kind of like that. Looking good. All right, so when you're all done, all you have to do is save and quit, and go back to Premiere, opening up the file you were working on, and you will see that magically the corrections that we built in color have been, or sorry, not color, that we have built in Speedgrade have been applied as Lumetri looks. So you can click them on and off. It's a single effect. And another nice thing is that you can build masks here. So you've got your full arsenal of effect masks ready to go. Not that you would want to do that. I can't fathom what purpose that would serve. But if you want to get creative, you want to get a little liberal with your ideas, you certainly may. Let's take a look at that. That's the effect. Turn it off. That's what we got out of camera. Not bad. A slightly more detailed way to do color correction. So far, I have only shown how to do this by eyeballing it. Next time we're in Speedgrade, what I'd like to look at are the histograms and how to read that information correctly. That pretty much wraps it up for the very, very basics of color correction in Speedgrade. Thank you for watching.